Thank you very much. We are now formally going to start this session, where we will start the session with the recitation of from the Holy Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul wallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Sadaqallahul Azim. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another series of webinar being conducted by ICAP. My name is Fawad Aftab. I'm your host for today. I'm a member of the PIIB Committee, Pakistan Accountants in Business, and a member of the CPD Committee of ICAP, and also under the able leadership of Mr. Khalid Rahman, who's the chairman of PIIB Committee. We have been conducting several series of seminars. This is the fourth in that series, and this webinar, we thought that after having few general discussions on the COVID and its business and its impact on the business and different other aspects, we thought it's important to communicate on the different aspects and the its impacts on the oil and gas, on different industrial sectors. So in the series of this webinars, the first webinar is on the oil and gas sector. As you know, I would not be wrong in saying that oil and gas sector, it is the backbone of many economies in the world. Several livelihoods are dependent on this sector. So we will be today talking about this sector with industry experts who have been in the middle of this crisis, who have dealt with the exploration side of it, the production side of it, the distribution side of it, and leaders from the LNG sector who have been at the forefront of different things. So having said that, I will just share a few, the format of the webinar. The format of the webinar is that initially a formal welcome note from our president, Mr. Khalilullah Sheikh, one of the youngest presidents of ICAP and pride of Pakistan, of ICAP. He will be starting the session for us, which will be followed by a panel discussion, which will be led by Mr. Zahid Mir and a group of panelists. Mr. Zahid, the group of panelists includes Ms. Uzma Adil Khan, chairperson of OGRA, a fellow member of ICAP, and has 35 years plus of 35 plus years of experience in this industry, and first female head of the authority. Then we have Ms. Muin Raza Khan, another veteran in this field, 35 plus years of experience, a geologist, one of the best in this field, and he's the head of PPL, MD PPL. Then we have Mr. Amin Rajput, another veteran, 30 plus years of experience in the oil and gas sector. He will be part of the dialogue. Then we have Mr. Imran Sheikh, another star, another ex-MD, PSO. He has been through, taken different challenges, strategist. He has taken shaped different things, like on the LNG, his expertise are well known. So he would be part of the panel discussion. And they all will be led by Mr. Zahid Mir, who is the CEO and MD PRL. And Mr. Zahid Mir, again, a known figure, a known name, carries experience in the oil and gas sector for more than approximately another 30 years experience over there. We have heading OGDCL and other oil and gas companies. This panel discussion will be for for an hour. And after that, there would be a thank you note, and then there will be well, actually, Ms. Uzma Adil will be joining us in a while. She will be here from because of her busy schedule. She would be here from 8 to 9, and at 9 o'clock she will be leaving us. So we will have a chairman PIB, Mr. Khalid Rahman. This would be followed by a question and answer session from the audience. In between, we will also have audience poll. There will be questions which will come on the screen, which people can share with us. And then we will obviously conclude around 9:30, a concluding remark from Mr. Zahid Mir, and then we will end the session after that. There are some basic things that we would say because of technology issues. If because of any reason there is anybody goes out, they can rejoin from the link. If Mr. Zahid Mir temporarily gets disconnected, I will take over and I will handle the session. Then there is a backup plan for me as well. Then there are question answer sessions that will happen. The second thing is, just for the audience who are there, please, there is a chat box, and then there is a question answer box there. For questions, we would recommend if you could use the question answer block. So this could be collected by a team of professionals who are working behind the scene, and they will then share it with us, and then we will share that in the question answer session. So that is what is recommended. The other thing is the link. We are also live on Facebook. The link will be shared on Facebook as well to join Zoom, and people should be encouraged to come on Zoom for proper. And the questions from Zoom will also be collected. And any question that we are not able to answer, we will be covering that in a subsequent webinar paper that we circulate after this. So with that, I will hand over the screen to our president, our pride, one of the youngest of ICAP, the youngest president of ICAP, Mr. Khalilullah Sheikh. Please, Mr. Khalil. Thank you.
Madam Usma Adil has already joined us. So, Madam, welcome on board. Over to you, President.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and very good evening to all the participants, speakers, panelists. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this very important webinar today. And as COVID has impacted nearly everything from social life to professional life to businesses to economies, so this professional training area is also one that has been impacted by it. And I'm very, it gives me great pleasure, and I'm proud to say that your institute has been quick to adapt to this new normal, which are the webinars. And this is probably, there have been over a dozen webinars that the institute has organized over the last 2 months. We have had industry leaders, finance minister, state bank governor, and we had seminars on impact of COVID on different industry, on profession, also on the economy of the country, on budget. And my compliments to the PIB committee led by Khalis Saab, and of course with members like Fawad Saab, Moin, for organizing so many useful webinars for the development of our members and participants. Thank you. My special gratitude to all the panelists today, Zahid and moderator Zahid Mir Saab, Uzma Adil Sahiba, Amin Rajput Saab, Moin Raza Saab, Imranul Haq Saab. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion, taking out time from your busy schedules. Once again, a very warm welcome to you. This oil and gas sector, as Fawad has rightly said, is one of the most important sectors, when we see a lot of happening in this, it is impacted by nearly every global event, and it has the potential to impact virtually every other sector of the economy as well. Oil, we have seen, several events here on the oil side, the price collapse, the supply side shock coupled with decrease in demand because of the pandemic. So what are the opportunities now? What are the challenges? How is the sector going to evolve? On a longer term note, we have seen, the given researches which are saying that oil economies are heading towards the destiny of dinosaurs with the change in, with things like electrical cars and the energy supply chains changing, evolving. So we learn from our learned speakers today about it. On the gas sector side as well, we have seen a lot of things happening in the recent past, LNG becoming an integral part of our gas supply chain. So how is that sector keeping up? We have seen that there are challenges in the transmission distribution side, the line losses. So we will also learn from our speakers today about it. With Ms. Uzma Adil Sahiba there, we will also learn how the regulatory framework is actually supporting this sector in improving and of course in the growth of this sector. So since we have the galaxy of eminent speakers today, I'll not take much time so that our participants learn more from them. Fawad Saab, over to you, and you can take the program forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Khalil, for your thoughts and welcoming everyone. Over to you, Mr. Zahid Mir, now directly, if we can move forward. Ms. Uzma is having some difficulty. She has joined the link through a participant link which was shared with her team. The IT team is working with her on the background, the link that was sent to her directly. So hopefully she will show that link of the panelist.
Thank you very much, Fawad. Very good evening to everybody, and assalamu alaikum. First of all, I think it's a great group of panelists. I had the opportunity and honor to work, in fact, every one of them for the last many years in different capacities. Moin Raza, I mean, you have heard his introduction, but he's probably one of the best explorationists in Pakistan, and he would understand the geology and the prospectivity of the whole country just like the back of his hand. And so I'm looking forward to listen and have a good interaction with him. Mr. Amin Rajput is handling the gas transmission and distribution in pretty much half of the country, and probably the most in the most difficult areas of Balochistan. And if you want to understand the UFGs, circular debt, LNG terminal issues, he's the man. So I mean, he's again, a very competent person, a long experience in the sector. Now, the third one is Imran ul Haq, and Imran ul Haq, I've worked with Imran in a different capacity when he was MD PSO. I mean, he is the one who basically has been working on LNG from the word go. He was responsible for setting up the LNG terminal, and amazing time, record time. Nobody was expecting in Pakistan that LNG will come online in such a short time, but he delivered the project. And then as MD PSO, he was the one who was involved in the procurement of LNG and basically made that happen. So again, a very, very useful resource. Regarding Uzma Adil, I mean, we all know that she is the OGRA chairperson, but I think she is the only regulator ever appointed who understand the business of gas distribution and transmission, as she has worked in SNGPL at the highest level. So she was she remained MD for some time. So a great panel, and I'm looking forward that we'll get some good discussion and insight out of the issue. Now, before I move to the panels, I mean, I'll take just 2 minutes. I mean, you have already talked about the E&P industry, but let me give you a bigger picture. Currently, I mean, the total energy supply last year was about 86 million tons of oil equivalent. Now, to understand the impact of gas, you would see that the contribution of indigenous gas is 35%. So it's about 4 BCF of gas every day, which is being produced. I mean, this comes out of the local industry, and the total requirement of the crude oil for the refineries is about 400,000, and out of that is about 20% is being supplied from the local industry. I mean, LPG, the local industry, the local E&P industries are producing about 75% of the LPG, and these it is such a backbone. This industry is such a backbone of country in every respect. Revenues, and if you look at the taxes, I mean, you would see the total 5 companies, top tax-paying companies. 3 companies are from the E&P sector. So what has happened? COVID has really impacted the whole world, every business, but probably not as much as it has impacted the oil and gas. The price crashed from $60-$70 to $15 in a matter of days. The demand went down because of the lockdown. The aviation industry came to a standstill, and in Pakistan, Moin will tell you that the gas and the gas production came down by maybe about 40–50%, and I know that the oil fields were shut down, and probably the local production again impacted by 40–50%. Now on LNG, if you see a few years back, effectively there was no role of LNG in Pakistan, and now from nothing to 9% of the total energy supply is now LNG. LNG has been impacted. I mean, maybe because of the contractual reason, the flow of LNG into the country was not impacted, but it has created a lot of other problems, and we'll hear more from SSGC and Moin. So I'll basically now go to the panelist, and so to further understand what has happened. So I think first I'll start with Moin, and Moin, my first question, I mean, let us know what has been the impact of COVID. What are the immediate concerns, your initial reactions, and what is the survival as far as the E&P industry is concerned? But also, I mean, join with this. I mean, this crisis basically has made change imperative. So, what changes do you see do you foresee in the upstream business?
Moin, can you put your speaker on?
Yeah, speaker is you are
Mute.
Unmute yourself.
Oh my God. Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Sorry for the. No, it was unmuted. Can you see? Can you hear me now?
Okay, we
yes,
can hear you loud and clear. Go on. Go on.
Okay.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, it was unmuted before also, but that's something I think probably a glitch. So of course, the most important, actually we carry out both exploration and production. Exploration is on the forefront because that helps in adding the reserves, and ensuring the business, ensuring the longevity of the company, and the growth potential of the company, reaping the growth potential of the company. We wanted the basic, for like any other business, where here also our main concern was the business continuity, of course. Like, the balance between staff and the staff health and business continuity. We have got, lots of fields, and SUI field is a very peculiar field which has its own tribal socio-political dynamics. And actually the enforcement of SOPs was not easy, the COVID-related SOPs. Actually, the first case of COVID in Pakistan came on 21st February, if I'm not wrong. But it really it picked up very abruptly after Eid. And right now the trend is towards coming down. But still, we have cases which are more than like, I say more than, okay, where has that gone? Yeah, more than, well, it's disappeared. So anyway, we have total, right now we have about 107,651 cases and 195. Well, Pakistan is not really so severely affected. The main problem was that, we don't have the health facilities and all that. So, our concern was that how do we manage the business so that the production does not stop, oil and gas keep pumping in the system, and the staff health is also is very important, that we need to take care of that. And we started the mock exercise and all that. That is basically the reaction. But our main concern was the how to maintain the smooth operation in field locations while keeping staff safe, staff rotation between field and days off, with security and defined SOPs, strictly defined SOPs, how to make staff work productively and efficiently, how to maintain smooth operations in the field locations while keeping staff, how to maintain progress on major capex project underway, and the production continuity, of course, and then the staff rotation also. So these are our major concerns. Okay, how would we work in a virtual environment, because most of the staff has to work from home now. So we started this thing in the end of toward the end of the March, the mock exercise, and that continued into the normal exercise. Right now, about we have about 80% people who are working from home, and 20% are going to the staff to the office. I occasionally every week 2 to 3 days for 2 to 3 days I visit the office. But what is how we have a survival strategy, as it is asking for. The thing is that we have been able to capitalize on the technology that we were not aware of. Really, the information and communication technology that is available at hand has provided us the seamless connectivity 24/7 basis with our staff in the field, with everybody in the.
Moin, sorry, can you adjust your camera? I mean, I can just see only your head. So I mean, so can you adjust your camera so that we can see your face?
Yeah, just hold on. Yeah, actually just sorry.
And also focus on the impact on the production, and whether the production is back online, and the future of your revenues because of the crash in oil prices.
Actually, we did not have any stoppage of the gas production, but we had the fear of, because of the low consumption of oil. So we had to cut down on oil, and our partners like MOL and Mashco also did that. So that was a loss of revenue plus during that period. And then we have a number of gas fields which produce oil, and you cannot really stop those that oil production, which we could not have the buyer for. So we had to manage that. We have to manage all that. And then there is another issue which is affecting everybody actually in this country, and more so the oil and gas industry and the energy industry. So that is the circular debt thing. And that the concern that we had initially, and that turned out to be true, that because of the low collection by the customers from their customers. So our receivables are really soaring at a very very large percentage. So all these things are happening, but fortunately our production has not really dropped because of the COVID thing. It has dropped for other things like the LNG and the high pressure in the pipeline, and the the low demand of from our Concord gas field by Genco, all those things. So basically we are all are basically we were most concerned about the exploration activities. As far we were continuing up with our drilling operations and all that, but naturally because of the cash crunch situation and the that has been impacted by the volatility in oil prices, there has been a crash. So, for the next year, we had to really cut down our budget by 40%. So that is going to affect our exploration, which is a long-term, which provides the growth opportunity. Unfortunately, and it has a very long gestation period from 5 to 8 years. So that's a bad news, really. That's a bad news from this thing. And well, but we have to learn to live with this new normal. The new normal is basically we have to depend on the technology, and this has taught us many lessons that the technology is available at hand, and we can communicate, we can hire the expertise across the world from anywhere, from Norway to Canada, anytime. They can like 3 hours a day basis, or whatever is the arrangement. So that this thing has really proven, this thing has proven that we can have the global access to the technical expertise. And fortunately, Pakistan has the excellent base of the information and communication technology to cater to that. I can say that because a lot of my staff is working from home and accessing the very highly data intensive applications, software.
So sorry,
And
Moin, I think I'll have to move on. I mean, I understand. I mean, what you're talking about is the usage of technology in the new circumstances. How can you work virtually? And also, I mean, the impact on the revenue will possibly have an impact on the capital expenditures. So moving on to Rajput Saab. I mean, again, the question we really want to understand, what has happened in COVID. It's obviously the strict lockdown, the shutdown of the commercial and industrial activities. How this has impacted the SSGC business? What were the challenges and how did you face it?
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone. Zahid, being a public sector utility company and one of the essential services, actually it has impacted us from various aspects. Apart from the reduction in revenue, reduction in the use of gas, there is a major element that we have to ensure that the uninterrupted supply of gas should be ensured. At the same time, we have to actually ensure the social service as well. Being an essential service, we were exempted from the lockdown restrictions from the day one. So I'm thankful to the local administration that they actually, Swiss Southern Gas, one of the, being the utility company, was exempted from the lockdown. So how it has impacted major industrial commercial activity reduced to a larger extent. And in the month of March, because this whole lockdown started from 21st March, initially there's a big reduction in the industrial and commercial activity, which has impacted to the extent of 57% reduction in the gas utilization of industrial and commercial. So we had to actually look into, and it impacted our revenue also to a larger extent, to almost 20% reduction in the revenue. So it was compensated to some extent by the power sector and fertilizer sector. And then we have to requested our gas suppliers to reduce the supply. But you see, at the same time with these challenges, when there was a lockdown, the staff has restrictions to come to offices, but the expectations were that we ensure the uninterrupted supply of gas to all the sectors at the same time. So this challenge we met actually by working 24/7 to ensure that the supply is there. At the same time, as I said, that it's an essential service. So we had to ensure that despite the industry is suffering because of the lockdown and the recession and the lesser activities, so we ensure that there will be, despite problem in the collection, we ensure there should be no disconnection. At the same time, with particularly domestic sectors, when we realized that people started losing jobs, their revenues affected, individuals were affected, particularly the poor class. So we aligned ourselves with the Prime Minister relief package, where it was announced that the domestic sector with the bills up to 2,000 rupees should be, we should make the installments. So we aligned ourselves with the ECC guideline, which provided that all the bills up to 2,000 should be made in installment to 3 months. So 3 months bills actually divided into 9 months collection. So that also affected. And at the same time, we should not disconnect any of the customer. So despite reduction in the business, in the revenues, in the collection, we had to ensure that we should not affect adversely any of our customer, whether it's industrial, commercial, or the domestic. So we did not make any kind of disconnection. So it was tough, particularly the month of March, second half of March, and then April. We were not able to even conduct the meter reading of domestic customers because our meter readers were not able to reach to the places. So we were forced to do the provisional billing. But we actually survived. It impacted, but it was not to the extent that that it really, I would say that the survival was an issue. We ensured uninterrupted supply. We assured the social service should be there. We assured that in these difficult times, we help the society as much as we can. And almost we facilitated 2.3 million customers, which are like, I would say, 70% of my domestic customers to be benefited by the Prime Minister relief package, to be, to reduce their bill in installments and collecting them their 3 months bill in the 9 months. So these were the major challenges which the company actually in this difficult time faced. And then gradually things got better. And now the things are normalized to a large extent. The industrial activity to a large extent is back. And domestic, as I said, already being almost 2.3 million customers are getting benefit by the reduced amount of the bills because their incomes have been reduced considerably. So it was challenging in the distribution business. And at the same time, as I said, that we requested our suppliers to reduce gas, which was to the extent of 15% we reduced in the month of March and April. But now things are to a larger extent normalized because of the industrial commercial activity is back. But this, of course, the problem is with the still we are with, because this pandemic and the COVID has so many issues, particularly the fear factor. So social distancing and the SOPs, we have to ensure that of course, that the people should not be affected. So we are still not open completely. We have made an SOP where the people who are needed, they are coming to offices. Otherwise, we are working from home 24/7, assuring to all our customers that the uninterrupted supply of gas continued, whether it is industrial, commercial, or domestic power or other sectors. So we being a public sector utility, essential service with a social element, in this difficult time, we were beside the whole society, when with the administration, and to a large extent, I think we succeeded to serve the nation in these difficult times.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'll move on to Imran. And Imran, I mean, sort of a similar question because we need to set the tone that, the impact of the COVID. We know that the LNG business all over were basically the prices crashed. But how has the COVID crisis impacted the LNG business internationally in general and specifically in Pakistan?
Imran Sahab, you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, that's what I just did. Yeah. Thank you, Zahid. I think the silver lining of the COVID-19 for LNG in Pakistan, at least, has been that our prices crashed by over 50%. So the LNG, as determined recently, is about 50 to 60% lower than what we had in January. So the impact on the long-term contracts was limited to the fact that the Brent price is reduced. But the story on the spot market was very significantly different. Till March, the industry was projecting decent volumes, was projecting prices in the range of about $6 per MMBTU this winter. And there were different buyers in the market trying to pick up these short cargoes so that they could weigh average these pricing that they have. People like the Turkish company, the Chinese, the Indians were all over trying to pick up volumes. The COVID hitting in March started to make things difficult. The volumes crashed because the demand in Europe crashed. The cargoes in the US were not being picked up. And surprisingly, there were cargoes available from the suppliers in the market as well. So all those factors really affected the market, the spot markets. And on top of it, individuals started getting out of you started using their flexibility in the contracts, which basically meant that they could reduce their offtakes by 10%. Pakistan also deferred 2 cargoes, and other people who had the opportunity reduce. So those volumes also came out in the market. And as such, the market significantly became oversupplied. The projections obviously hit the bottom, sorry. And what happened is that today, the US is not supplying LNG to the world simply because its own pricing, the Henry Hub pricing today is under $2 in the US. And that compared to what the JKM margin is, there is no arbitrage, and they lose about 50 cents a million BTU to sell to the Asian markets. So that's a stop. There is also fear that because of the low prices that are expected to continue for some time, that some of the FIDs that were going to take place, some of the LNG projects may get delayed. And as a result, we may feel pressure in supplies in about 5 years' time from now. But that's history. That's down the line. In contrast, Qatar is going full swing in expanding its capacity. So they don't seem to be affected by the COVID. They're looking at their long-term strategy and implementing it. Pakistan, unfortunately, did not take advantage of the situation. It still can. Amin has just mentioned some of the issues on the operational side, and which are understood. I mean, from what I understood also, besides that they had to reduce the gas production, there was also line pack issues. There were issues related to cargoes standing out at on the channel, requiring damages to be paid, etc. And that affected the operation in the Pakistan market for people like the Swiss, both the Swiss in Pakistan. Moving forward, the market, as I said, is still in a glut position. There is expectation that this will not go beyond the $3 price or $3.50 price this winter. It all depends on how fast the industrial economy comes back online. But this also is an opportunity for Pakistan. We need to look at how we can buy additional cargoes on the spot market if the demand in the country increases, and reduce the cost of the LNG basket. The $5 basket could potentially come down to $2 or $3 if we were to use the capacity that is available in the second terminal. Also in the process, we would save the payment that is being made to the terminal for being not utilized. That is a significant amount of dollars, and my calculation, that's about $400 million per annum. So if we can find a mechanism of looking at how we can use less indigenous gas, which is obviously costing higher than $3 to $4.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you've made the point. Now I'll have to move to Uzma. And Uzma, I mean, you are probably the one who is basically looking at the industry as a whole. So, I mean, tell us your experience, how COVID crisis has impacted the industry as a whole, and what challenges have you faced as a regulator?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Frankly speaking, the regulator has been working round the clock, because whatever happens in the industry may have slowed down, but the regulator's business is such that, like, we have timely renewals, we have to dispose of the cases, and then with this oil crisis going on, we had a lot of work on our hands. So the regulator did not get a chance to really have a break. This is a fact that we were not working full strength, but the people who were working from home, we did try to manage that 1/3 of our staff keeps coming, and the other 2/3, they had to work round the clock because these were not normal times, and the normal office hours also did not apply. Whatever used to usually take some time when the file used to move from desk to desk had to be done ASAP, because once we received a query or we had to dispose it off immediately. The reason being that when the case was set up, for example, if there is a renewal of a license, so we did not delay it, because now when the physical file was not coming to us, the thing was highlighted to the highest level. So when the authority was involved, so I saw that there was a lot of quick work being done, and people were not trying to just sleep over the files. Having said that, the industry problems didn't hit us as such, except for the oil industry, which we have to monitor. The gas industry did slow down, and the gas companies had this problem, but it did not impact the regulators' side for that. As regards the oil crisis, that was a bit of a headache for us, because we have a certain mandate in the oil business and as per the oil rules, and that is a shared responsibility with the Ministry of Petroleum. Now, this shared responsibility did create certain problems. And as you all are aware of, there were certain problems of demand and supply. Somehow things did get out of hand, and the oil marketing companies, they did store up on their stocks and did not supply to their retail outlets, which created quite a crisis in the country. But after the Ministry of Petroleum and the regulator and other enforcement agencies, they had to work across the board, and they had to work round the clock to go and ensure that these stocks were shifted. The crisis, alhamdulillah, is quite under control, but I sincerely hope the stocks are ample now, because we don't know, with the prices changing so in this volatile market, this was feared. In the usual business, it was not business as usual, and because the prices had a declining trend, we did see the market being manipulated to a certain extent. Having said that, we all feel that in such trying times, it is the responsibility of all stakeholders to take their share of the losses or the business risks, and they all have to be cognizant of this fact that if they have been making profits in the past, now in these trying times, this was like a war-like situation. It was the world over. So we should have been more aligned towards this crisis, and we should have all helped to lessen the burden.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Uzma. Thank you. Now moving back to Moin, and this question, I must say that is probably the most important question for the E&P industry, and you are the best person to basically respond to it. But I know it's a big subject, but please be brief and try to sort of explain in maybe 5 minutes. But the question is that effectively you look at Pakistan and the reserve replacement is not happening. So if you look at the production levels are pretty much constant, and in fact, I mean, this year will be the lowest production level in the last 10 years. So exploration success is the issue. So how would you relate exploration success in Pakistan with the rest of Pakistan, rest of the world? Is it sustainable? How can you impact in meeting our growing energy needs as the exploration successes are not coming. And join with it, I mean, the possibility of unconventional resource, exploiting an unconventional resource. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a big question, but try to be brief. Are you mute? Moin, can you unmute, please?
I wasn't muted.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. And can you adjust your camera too?
Yeah, but this is funny, really.
No, this is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh yeah, you got a slide. Oh yeah. So this first slide, I would like to say that this is the success rate is, is a misnomer. Really a misnomer. I don't know, people across the industry, outside the industry, they have no idea about it. People at the hand of affairs are also affected by this. They are also influenced by this. Actually, if you look at this, the first major gas field were discovered in 1952, and that still stands by all means the largest gas field. That is more than 12, more than 13, about 12, more than 12 TCF of gas field recoverable. And if you look at the initial thing, this blue are the wells, the number of wells that have been drilled on the y-axis, and green are the reserve addition, and the red are the discoveries. If you see that in the beginning, the discoveries were far in between, and the exploration well was also the frequency was not very high. The number of per year, very few wells were drilled. But the major finds had already been made, like Sui, Mari, Uch, Kanpur, Pirko. And if you go up to 2001, there were like if we calculate that pre 2001, the average gas discovery size was 400 billion cubic feet of gas per day, and from 2001 onward, we have made a large number of discoveries. You can look at this the red bar. The red bar, and if you look at on the y-axis, this represents 32 discoveries in this X year, probably 2015 or 16, and you can see that the red bar is so high. There were a number of discoveries, but look at what we are discovering in terms of volumes. This green thing. So this is a very thing. The chance of success or is a dynamic thing. It's a dynamic thing. You should define it for a certain period of time, but you've defined it over a period of time. What we have done, that we have made a large number of discoveries. They say that we have made 411 discoveries. Out of 414, 1123 wells. So this gives us a success ratio of 1.228. But look at the field size that what we have been discovering, really, because we have been focusing on the traditional oil and gas corridor, and that is the east of the east of River Indus and the west of River Indus and the first line of hills. So that is the main problem. We have now creamed out that known oil and gas corridor. If you go to the next slide, please, because you have covered two questions and one is a number of questions. If you look at this slide, I've been showing this slide in many forums, but it's a very important slide. Green represents the oil, and gas, red is the gas. You can see that Pakistan is by and large is a gas-prone country. Even about 85 to 90% is gas, and about 10% is oil. So far we have discovered about 1.15 billion barrels of oil and 61.355 trillion cubic feet of gas. And we have already produced 40 trillion cubic feet. So the balance recoverable is now 20 now. And similarly, the oil balance that is also 570 million barrels. So, if you look at this, it doesn't provide you a very healthy picture in terms of the reserve production ratio. So you can see that, large number of discoveries, you look at the until 1980, you can see that about 5 trillion cubic feet of 5 billion barrels of oil equivalent was discovered. The gas was discovered. And so far we have discovered about 9.2 billion barrels of oil equivalent gas. So that means more than half was discovered, until 1970, or, if you say very little addition in 1980. So until 1960, you had already discovered about 4.3. So, and you hadn't drilled so many wells, but now the drilling density has increased, but the size of the discoveries have really decreased. So this picture of 2.88, one discovery in every 3 well is very, very, is very confusing, and it doesn't depict the real picture, because if you look at the last few years, we have discovered very few reserves, very small reserve with large number of discoveries and large number of wells. So that's something that it's a very cause of concern. It's a great cause of concern, because it seems that we have already creamed out our discoveries trend in the known oil and gas corridor. Now, in order to find the new oil and gas fields, you have to move away from this. You have to move away into the frontier area of Balochistan and Sindh and the KPK. So, and that is very high cost intensive, and very, very highly technology intensive, but very highly cost intensive in terms of security and the site construction. It takes about 30% of your budget just for security, and about 15% of your budget for the well in terms of the access road site construction. So that's a heavy expenditure, and none of the multinational companies are willing to invest in the frontier area. So the brunt is is falling on the public sector companies like OJDC and PPL, and we are doing our doing our bit. But there's only so much we can do, given the liquidity crunch position, the circular debt position, and the financial muscle, basically, I'm talking about. So we have to cut down our exploration program. So that
can you move to Moin? Sorry, can you move to the unconventional bit, so that you just take?
Can I have the next slide, please? But unconventional is divided into two things. The tight gas, tight oil, and the shale gas and shale oil. And the tight gas is the precursor for the shale gas, because if you discover 1 unit of volume by one well in the conventional, you discover the same unit of volume by 4 wells in the tight gas, and for the same amount of volume by 10 wells for the shale gas. So it's a very cost intensive thing, and then it is very highly technology intensive thing. You're talking about frac job, you're talking about developing the service sectors, you're talking about developing a large base, and then of course if we calculate now the gas price that would make the economically break-even case is about it ranges from $10 to $15 per MMBTU, while Mr. Imran Haq very clearly mentioned that right now in USA the Henry Hub price is $2 per MMBTU. That means even their unconventional is
okay, Moin, sorry, I'll have to move. We understand your point.
One thing I would like to really highlight.
Okay.
Please give me that task.
Yeah.
You gave it to Amin Rajput, please. Because this is very
please go ahead.
Because this is very important, that we need to have the government incentives. to develop the, because, government will get a lot of, there is that discovery, they will get a lot of revenue in return, but, there is a lot of economic benefit for that. That it will reduce the burden on foreign exchange, human resource development, technology transfer, and the cleaner, and the government will earn through the taxes and the all those things, and 12.5% in the form of royalty and all that. But initially, government have to give the tax break and all the incentives like the tax holidays for the service companies, so that because tight gas and shale gas work on the assembly line concept. You drill well after the well after the well. So and that means you need to have a lot of capital, and you need to have service industry is very well developed. Service industry is very well developed.
Exactly. I mean, we need a shared gas policy and government incentive. Now, before I move to Rajput Saab, I'll probably go to Uzma. Uzma, I mean, you look at the regulatory framework of the E&P industry. I guess, I mean, and you are not a part of the policy wing, but obviously, I mean, you understand everything. So my question to you is the regulatory framework which supports the business E&P, oil and gas sector in Pakistan, what are the structural reforms that are required to create a fair system? Because I always hear that, the system is not fair. But tell me, I mean, what are the improvements that you can make to create a fair system and encourage foreign investment that is always required in Pakistan?
It's a pity that the Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority does not deal with the upstream activity, and the E&P companies come under the upstream regulator. There is no such regulator, formalized regulator for the E&P companies, the upstream activity. The Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority deals with the mid and downstream activities. So we need a regulator for the E&P companies. We need an upstream regulator. Presently, the DGPC's office, that is the Director General Petroleum Concessions Office in the Ministry of Petroleum, a small wing, works for the E&P companies. They auction the blocks, they make the agreements according to the E&P policies. Having said that, they need a regulator who can concentrate on this, who can develop these the problems highlighted by Moeen himself, because the DGPC's office has so much on its plate, and then they're always firefighting that files tend to get lost. So there are no expeditious auctions, there are no expeditious decisions, and I am not saying that the government is not doing its work. The government is overburdened. I feel that the government is overburdened, and that their style of working is different from a dedicated body which is to look after this business. So there is no E&P regulator. Number one, there should be an E&P independent regulator other than the DGPC's office.
Can I say something? Can I add just a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Please, I'll not take more than half a minute. We, as Ms. Uzma very rightly pointed out, that there is no E&P regulatory authority per se, but DGPC office has been acting as a regulator for last, I don't know, 35, 40 years really, and we have been dealing with him on regulator, and they're also involved in the policy making. So now we need to have the regulator separately from the policy making, because we need to have a new petroleum policy, which is very much required, because the last petroleum policy was in 2012. But the important thing is, right now, if you look at, I will be very blunt here. If you look at the DGPC office right now, they are kind of, drained on resources. All the people who are deputed from the oil and gas companies, who are experts, they have moved back to their offices, and the DGPC itself herself, she has, she has come from a different background. She's a CSF officer. So naturally, I would say it's very unfair that you put for her, on her, that, they put her in that job. Because, you need to have a very, need to have an expertise developed in the
Yeah,
UGPC office
I
in
think
terms of.
I think you have made your point. I mean, the capacity building of the regulator is required, and maybe a different.
Absolutely.
Now going to Rajput Saab.
But just one more thing, that I don't want to add any more regulator, because regulator means, regulating means, you're talking about deregulation worldwide, and you want to add more regulators. Let the DGPC office get strengthened.
Okay. So, Rajput Saab, I mean, well, we are short of time, but I think I want to understand your views on the gas tariff regime. I mean, you are getting gas from different sources, different prices, ranging from sui gas, which is cheap, and then there are expensive gases under 2012 policy, and then the LNG coming in at a very high price. And also talk to us about the UFG, how you are controlling the UFG, and how you are managing the circular debt. Again, I'm combining 2-3 questions, but please briefly tell us about this.
Thank you, Zaid. I think, you have summarized so many questions, but very relevant. If I look at the gas sector, we are a highly regulated company. So the gas which is allocated to us, like after exploration by ECC, is coming to us. So we don't know the total reserves available or total reserves being supplied to the country. We are allocated after the ECC approval, and then we start laying the pipeline and get the gas. We are selling at the price which is set by OGRA based on our revenue requirements, and then accordingly. So gas availability, gas buying purchase price, gas selling price, all being regulated by OGRA and the federal government. The most important about the tariff regime is this, that the, I will really appreciate OGRA's role, particularly the current management and current regulators, senior people, that they got a study by an international consultant. And after that, there were a lot of very positive developments done in the tariff regime. Particularly, there was a long standing issue of the UFG benchmark. There was declaration of the operating and non-operating incomes, third-party access rules, networking rules. So these were the things which were after the study done, they have actually introduced, and which has positively impacted. So current tariff regime is providing a lot of incentives to the SUI companies, but at the same time, running a utility is a difficult business, and then running a public sector utility is a very, very difficult business, because when you have a lot of socio-economic agenda, and particularly I would say like Balochistan, or in case of SUI Northern, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where 50% of the gas, because there is no industry in Balochistan particularly, or very minimal industry, the 95% gas goes to the domestic sector. And in winter, the supply becomes 4 times what the normal supply is. And because of the people live below the poverty level, and the tariff across the country is the same tariff, but conditions are not same. We tried in the past also if we could have a different tariff for the areas like Balochistan, but unfortunately we could not, because the people don't have capacity to pay in Balochistan. In winter, when there is extreme winter, there's an issue of life and death. People go for theft or for other means, because they think they can't survive when there is a below freezing point temperature. And people live below the poverty level. The bill is 50,000 when the earning is average 20,000 or less. So these issues are the one. And when these both SUI companies are carrying a socio-economic agenda, at the same time we are the companies listed on a stock exchange. So it's a big challenge. We are not a corporation that gets support. We don't get support. We finance all of our business by ourselves on our balance sheet. So we don't get sovereign guarantees generally, or we don't get the financing done, or we get budgets. So it's a big challenge. The role of the problem is, as Moeen explained, but if I look at the future projection of the gas supplies, the numbers are not very attractive. So, we have to mix the domestic gas with the RLNG. And when now, like from 2015, RLNG started coming to the country. And now I would say the 1/3 of the total gas available to the consumer is RLNG. But I think where the currently the regulator and the federal government is struggling is how to make the price of RLNG affordable to the customers. So the issue is, if you look at the industry or the businessman who's doing business in Sindh, having a different price of gas, and who's doing business in Punjab, having a different price. So RLNG is available, the price is still not yet settled actually. So that is why if you look at, we have 2 terminals which are having a capacity of 1.2 BCFD. But if you look at what they are operating not more than 600 to 700, or on an average, I'm saying. So there's a lot of ample capacity in the pipeline, in the terminals, but they're not being utilized because of the RLNG price as of today. And as Imran said, that long-term contracts, because long-term contract has a commitment of 10 to 15 years where you cannot open the price. So you have to live with it. Despite that, with COVID and all other factors, the price of RLNG have been reduced significantly. And if you go spot, we can make very good deals, but it will live with where the half of the, or I would say at least 40% of the total committed energy of RLNG is coming through a long-term contract. So these are the limitations there, but we are not tapping the full availability of RLNG. So this is one. Secondly, you said circular debt. You see, in case of gas business, the circular debt is not like a power business or oil sector, but we have a major problem with the timely increase of prices. If you look at the legacy, and Madam Chairperson, Madam Usman knows very well, she had also been actually did the counseling and of the federal government that please increase the price on time. But if you look at from 2015 till 2018, there was no increase in price. So, our circular debt is get stuck. We are going to OGRA every 6 months with our revenue requirement. They make a revenue requirement, but it cannot be converted into cash unless the price is increased. Now it's because it depends on the federal government. So in July 18, and then in October 2019, there was an increase. And if you guys remember, when the government was changed, everybody was saying that both the companies have more than 200 billion losses. That were not losses, they were the cash flow issues. Because if the price is not increased on time, it gets stuck in the form of a GDS receivable, which is ultimately to be collected from the customers and cannot be collected unless it is turned into the price. So OGRA does the revenue requirement. We do recognize it, but we cannot collect it unless the price is increased. So in the form of it becomes a part of the circular debt when the
is there any improvement in the UFG thing that is you are working on?
There are many factors. Actually, you see, the UFG is a combination of 3 factors, I would say. It's a leakage, which is because of the infrastructure. It's a measurement issue because of the measurement, and third is a theft. So I would say if we divide, it's a 1/3 each. And the credit goes to OGRA that they have actually set a benchmark from increasing from 4.5 to make it, because they did the international study by a consultant who came up with a number that there's a international benchmark of 5%, but at the same time, we have our own local conditions, local limitations, working issues. So they gave us a variable benchmark of, in addition to 5% or 2.6. So there is a reasonable benchmark, I would say. I would not say it's a good benchmark, because if I am a pure commercial organization, a private company, I can really do much better like private company or a private utility company is doing. But being a public sector, and the legacy of public sector companies mostly is very bad, because they have been actually politicized, and ultimately these actually, I know you had been the CEO of OGDCL, and we had been sharing many times in the ministry that actually those issues have created so much problem that which are very peculiar for the public sector. So it needs a lot of improvement. It needs a lot of by the ministry and by the regulator and by those who are the think tank, that how to make these. I think all public sector oil and gas companies are working not more to 50 to 60% of their potential. They have a potential, unbelievable potential.
Sorry. I mean, I'll have to move on.
Sure.
Imran, tell us. I mean, there has been a big debate within Pakistan on the LNG long-term procurement contracts, and there is so much criticism for having a long-term. So, are long-term arrangement for LNG terminal necessary? We should do it, and also tell us, with the current demand of gas, I mean, which is suppressed, are future LNG pipeline projects viable with government offtake and support?
Okay. Now the issue is a single buyer in the country and obtaining financial flows on projects. When you have the Suez in case of gas, and you have NTDC in case of power, being the only buyer in town, you will not be able to achieve financial close unless there's some sort of a guarantee offtake. The recent case where the wind power projects, which are must-run projects, were not allowed to deliver, is a case in point. More importantly, where are we not having long-term contracts? The IPPs are long-term contracts, HAR is long-term contracts, TAPI will be a long-term contract, the transmission systems are all long-term contracts. Whether Pakistan can survive without long-term, yeah, we can. There's no question on that. But then you will not have gas available when you want to. The fuel management system in this country is very poor. You've seen what has happened in the recent case that Uzma mentioned. You've seen what is happening in Karachi. If there was enough projections by the utility companies, by the OMCs, there was no need for the issues that we have. So yes, you can go out and do spot buying, but then you need to have a very strong mechanism to make sure that the product is available when required. The spot, the one thing we have to also remember, the spot is not always going to be $2. When we started this project, we went up to 17% of Brent when we bought cargoes at that point. So what is better? The last 3 years or 5 years has shown that the long-term contracts have saved this country money. We can debate what the saving is and how that saving came in. If you move forward, even the OGRA industry report of 2017-18 talks of 6 BCF of shortage. Now, with that and the integrated energy report that came out a few months ago, we need to double our capacity in the 10 years that in this decade. And 5 times by 2047. That requires an investment of $70 billion in generation capacity. If you can't get a financial close, if you cannot have the investor guaranteed some sort of a return, if you are not sure that you're going to get revenues out of the government projects, what are you going to do? So yes, you can do it, but you will not have financial close. So it will have to be on the books of Suez Southern or the government of Pakistan. But other than that, it's not going to happen. The TAPI, the IP is also, as you all know, a take-or-pay contract. The rates are pretty much similar to what the LNG contract is at. So what you need is, the solution is not arguing on what the long-term contracts are. The solution is to find a basket which is cheaper. So you've had long-term contracts, you have 2 contracts coming up for renewal in the next 2 years, but you have also capacity in the terminal. So try and put a package together where you can reduce your cost of gas. Have a long-term contract. They have one similar to us. India has something similar to us, but they also are able to manage their fuel requirement. They're able to go out in the market. We have all this Amin Rajput alluded to some of the issues that they have in the government sector. On top of that is the PEPRA. How in the world can you go out do and hedge? Commodity prices will change every day. And if you are in the hedging business, can you survive with all the question and answer that you're going to do for the lifetime?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Pakistan has to have long-term contracts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are ways of managing that, but unfortunately, we have our problems.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Imran. Now, I think I'll try to have one quick round, and we'll try to finish it in 10 minutes. Moin, quickly tell me, what is the regulatory improvement that you think matter the most for E&P sector?
What I want to start going away from the regulations and start basing it on the market situation. This is my dream actually. This is probably something which is a wish list, wishful thinking. But the most important thing that the E&P sector is facing right now is that the E&P companies, mostly the public sector companies, are not getting paid for. There is it's like it's a double-edged sword, that they invoice, they don't get paid for it, and then they pay the royalty and taxes on the invoiced amount, not the realized amount. So that is like adding insult to injury. So we have made several proposals that, please do it on the collect and pay basis. Anyway, this is something. The other thing is very important, very daunting for the explosion in the frontier areas, because you have seen that. Because I didn't show you more slides, but you have seen that all that creamy curve and the wells that have been drilled, they only cover 25% of the sedimentary area of the country. Sedimentary rocks are the ones where oil and gas are found. So 25% only. The 75% of the sedimentary area is not covered. Either it is considered less prospective, or it is considered too far in the frontier high back. PPL made the first gas discovery in the 6th line of hills, Morgan discovery. This is the first discovery in the frontier exploration areas that we made last December, and it seems that it's going to be over a TCF discovery, inshallah, and then we will start developing it. But because of the cash flow thing, we're not able to do it now. So that discovery, it has opened a new avenue in the Kalat Plateau. That is something that only multinational companies don't venture in the areas which are very high cost. Security arrangement, in one of the wells, I paid $10 million of just on the name of security, and about $6 million for
you've touched about this. Thank you, Moin. Going to Uzma, again, it's sort of a big question. The time is the issue. I want to understand your views on the gas pricing mechanism. What do you think is the best? Your personal view based on your, is it regulated or market-driven pricing structure? The other thing which I want to understand, or maybe get your views from, LNG is being diverted to domestic during the winters. So, but it's still, the issue is not a weighted average cost. So tell us, is it fair to use LNG in the basket and come up with a weighted average cost?
Absolutely. I personally definitely support the weighted average cost. Reason being, even if you're getting it from any field, some fields are expensive, the Sui field was cheaper, you have to have a weighted average cost. And the socio-economic agenda of the government, whichever government is in place, should be made through direct subsidies so that the companies are sustainable, the E&P companies are sustainable, the gas companies are sustainable, the midstream, downstream companies are sustainable, because the socio-economic agenda is definitely an important thing. but that is the government's child. They have to give direct subsidies. They should, if I'm using something and I don't have the ability to pay for it, I should not be using it. Because frankly speaking, the gas which the people are getting, it is not priced at the price of the alternate fuels, which 70% or 75% of the users are using. Like if they are using LPG or if they are dedicatedly using LNG, the price is nowhere near the indigenous gas. It's not fair. It's not fair. I mean, it has to be equal for everyone. The cost has to be equal for everyone. And if you want to subsidize certain class, you are most welcome to do it by direct subsidies. That is
that's
the
not
only.
correct. Yeah, please go
that
ahead. Madam.
your company sustainable, financially viable, and the prices should be across the board.
Yeah.
Anything.
You want to add something, Moin? Just a quick line only.
Yeah, just one thing. That's one thing. So, you know, when you're talking about this, you know, the most important thing that we want is, you know, that, you know, I missed that. I didn't get a chance actually. That is incentivizing the exploration in frontier areas, because the chance of success is very low and the cost is very high. So in order to attract the multinationals,
Yeah.
if you want to attract the multinationals,
So you want
you
to have
have
a
to give an incentive.
you want to have a new policy. You want to have a new policy with incentives, right?
Absolutely.
Now, Amin Saab, tell me something about your view as far as the role of LNG, long-term role of LNG in Pakistan. You think 2 terminals are enough, or how do you see LNG? And as I said, that from 0 to 9%, and what do you see the future? Your microphone is mute, Moin Saab. Amin Saab. Amin Saab, microphone mute. What, can you unmute it as admin?
I think he's got yeah, he's back. He's back.
He is back, but his microphone is still mute.
But he can unmute himself.
Sorry, Zaid. Can you repeat your question? I was offline.
Well, the question is the long-term LNG market. I mean, you know, you think it has already gone up from 0 to 9% of the energy mix. Now, is 2 LNG terminal enough, and how do you see the long-term LNG market?
You see, if we look at the Pakistan, as I explained earlier, from the gas consumption's perspective in Pakistan, RLNG, because if you look at the domestic gas projections, RLNG was the reality, and in 2015, that time when it was the made reality, was a real success. But again, the issue is at what price? As I explained earlier, we got 2 terminals which are producing 1.2 BCF, which is the 1/3 of the supply of the country. But we are still not able to actually utilize the whole LNG available for these sectors. So as Usma said very rightly, we have to make a weighted average overall. So the gas available should be utilized. Okay, इस वक्त भी 1 terminal is being utilized at hardly 600 capacity है, बल्कि 700 plus है, and it is being utilized 250 MMCFD. So it is available, or as Imran said, कि हम spot पे खरीदें, उसको mix करें, और ultimately make it available to the. देखिए, gas is a very precious commodity, and I being into this business now for almost a decade, industry and power sector should be of a priority. I want to touch upon what Uzma said, कि subsidy जो है, देखिए, we are cross-subsidizing our customers. Domestic is highly subsidized. Fertilizer is highly subsidized at the cost of power, industry, captive power. Now the issue is, देखिए, ये चूल्हों में जलाने के लिए नहीं असल में. We cannot do the politics on this precious commodity. Let it be utilized for power and industrial sector. ताकि इस मुल्क की जो precious resource है, and then mixing with the RLNG, इसको हम utilize करें for the major sector, and then the whole economy will be benefited rather than utilizing it just for domestic purposes.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. That's a very good point. Now, the last question I will ask to Imran before we move ahead. Tell us, Imran, I mean, what kind of bold structure and innovative models that you expect to transform the usage? Because the LNG has a typical unit for the usage for the time being. So what model do you foresee to transform the usage of LNG Pakistan into the coming decade, let's say?
Again, transformation is already there. I mean, we don't have a choice. Pretty soon, 25% will be indigenous gas and 75% will be imported gas. So what Uzma said has to take place. I would only say that the subsidy part has to come through some other mechanism. It has to come through the BSP card or something else. The utilities have to get the cost of gas that they desire. They can't be asked to subsidize instead of the government giving them, not giving them subsidy. We can talk of energy conservation, we can talk of the UFG and TDS losses that need to be catered for. But what is really required is we need into energy as the requirement is very significant. The way we talk of the renewable energy being a solution, it is not a solution. If renewable energy requires backup power. Today, if we had renewable energy dependency, what would we do without the battery system that we have? But all that is all good. I mean, today we have certain issues, tomorrow we're going to have more issues. But who is going to resolve those issues? The question is it the government? Is it going to be the Swiss? It is going to be the regulator. Probably it is all three combined. But the environment is not conducive to doing this. I'll close at that point, which I made earlier. Unless you have confidence in the people who make the decisions, unless they're given the right environment to work in, we will not be able to do any bold steps. We have, hedging is an option available to us. But why haven't we hedged? Why has the government backed out in the last 2 months? Because we all know the issues with hedging. And so leaving it right there, unless the environment for the decision makers is made conducive, we can talk of all sorts of resolutions. We can talk of all solutions. We can talk of all options. It is not going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Imran. Fawad, I mean, it depends upon if Uzma has time, we can basically go to question and answer session before we hand it over to Khalid Rahman Saab. And if Uzma has to leave, then probably I'll request Khalid Rahman. Uzma, you want to say something, please?
Your session is so interesting that I will stay on.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's good.
Very much. Fawad, so if we can go to question and answer session from the audience, and then after that we'll go to Khalid Rahman sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I will be sharing the slide for the question answers first set that we have received. We have nearly received more than 20 questions, so we will try to cover most of the things there.
Okay, I guess, I mean, the question will be addressed to Moin. Moin, I mean, we have discussed this so many times. Why foreign E&P companies like BP are leaving? What's the future of E&P in Pakistan, and how this divestment players can be stopped? I mean, you have seen in the last few years, most of the foreign companies are leaving. So please tell us why the companies are leaving.
These are the questions that have come from the audience?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I rephrased your question into something like that. but this question was not asked. I'm glad that somebody has asked it.
But
okay,
be brief, please.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you know, unfortunately, the thing is that आपको, you know, इसको कहते हैं कूजे में दरिया को बंद करना. It's very difficult. You know, it's a very vast topic. But let me say, you know, it's a, you know, the companies are exiting on the basis of strategy. See, a lot of companies have exited Pakistan. BP has exited. Petronas has exited, the Malaysian company. Now ENI is exiting, and in OMV has exited. You know, the company that was really producing a lot of gas from Sawan and Miano and Latif and Tajal. So you know, this is something. It's a strategy-based thing, really, because you know these companies are driven by the business in the other countries also, because you know there is a competition of business between Pakistan and the other business units. So naturally, when BP exited, you know, they had that bad incident in the Gulf of Mexico, and they actually sold a lot of their assets. Otherwise, they should not have left. As far as Petronas and OMV have left, OMV has also left because of some reasons, because they had purchased a large number of assets. ENI is exiting. ENI has not really conducted large scale exploration during last, if I including LASMO also, because LASMO, they started operating in Pakistan in 1989. So naturally, you know, everybody has the strategy, but ENI was basically counting on the Kekada well, success of Kekada well. Otherwise, they would have exited 3 years ago.
I'll thank you. I mean, I'll try to वो कूजे में दरिया को बंद करने की बात है. I was sitting with the Minister of Petroleum, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, when OMV was leaving, and Shahid Saab asked the director of OMV, "Why are you leaving?" And he said 3 things. One is the regulator. You don't have a policy, good policy under regulator. The other is FBR. And the third is the lack of prospects. So these are the 3 things. I mean, you know, you can see all these issues. That
can I make just few seconds, 10 seconds comment?
Okay, 10 seconds, please.
You know, your first 2 things I don't agree with. I mean, yes, of course, regulatory thing. Yeah, they are the hindrances, but you know they've been operating there.
I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, this is sort of a perspective of a foreign investor. So, I mean, you know, this is what
he was giving a wrong picture. They were having the cash flow problem. They had spent a lot of money on buying the assets, which didn't deliver.
Okay, now let's move on to the second question. And the question is from Kashif Siddiqui, and I think Kashif Siddiqui from PSO. With spot LNG prices crashed, why can't we look into reducing injection of expensive local gas, which can be used later and take advantage of current situation? Now, maybe I'll answer this. I mean, you know, the problem with the local gas is that, you know, it is, well, this is one perception that we can use it later, but commercially, the day you don't produce that gas, it is gone. Gone in the sense, commercially it is gone. You can only produce it at the tail end of the field. So effectively, the NPV, the net present value, is finished. So it is a very, very commercial decision, and it's a policy decision that you need to take. I mean, to me, the best thing is to have a policy such that you are able to do both. You need to work on probably the underground storage so that, I mean, you can store and take it out. But for the local gas, I mean, I am quite against stopping local gas production. The question to Muin Saab, is offshore drilling in Pakistan have any potential? Please, tell me.
Actually, offshore has been divided in many zones. This Kekada well was drilled in a very ultra deep water. The water depth was about 1800 meters. So this was a different, we work on the geology when we do the exploration. So it was entirely a different geological play. It does not reflect on the offshore prospectivity per se. In Pakistan, we have did only 18 exploration wells in offshore, both Makran and Indus. And Pakistan has a very large sedimentary basin offshore, about 1 million square kilometers if you go up to the EEZ, exclusive economic zone. So, it doesn't, offshore potential has not been tapped. People have been actually, doing things that are, they should have done in a systematic way. And I think we should do exploration. We should continue with this. PPL has applied for many blocks, and inshallah, we will do that.
So we need money. It's a lot of potential there, but it's very expensive. Now there is another question.
I'm not saying that there is a lot of potential, but it is the perfect analogy of the world's producing basin.
Okay. So how do you see? Well, I mean, the slide is gone. Anyway, are there any alternate usage of gas which was held back due to high demand from existing consumers before COVID-19, which can be used now? Probably the simple answer is no. Do you want to add something, Moin?
This is a question that is asked by lots of people. Actually, there is no gas storage facility in Pakistan. Any gas storing losses. There is no gas storage facilities in Pakistan. A number of studies have been done. The first study was done in Sui, but it seemed like we'll have to pump in about 300 to 400 BCF before and that will go waste before we start producing. So in Pakistan, the depleted fields are not big enough where you can really pump in gas and store it for a long time. So unfortunately, this gas storage thing is not really working, but the oil storage might as well work.
Okay, the next question is, how do we see the oil price trend in next 12 months? Any participant can basically participate. I mean, that depends upon the demand and supply scenario and the return of the commercial and industrial activity in full. Now, what will happen? Will the aviation industry will be back in next 12 months? I mean, not very likely. It will come back slowly. So the demand in the world will basically reach to the same peak. There are different views. Some people would say 2022, and the optimistic people will say 2021. So I think the oil price will remain under pressure next 12 months. Any other comments, Imran?
I would say that because of E&P sector question, it's basically there are many projections, and they all come with a disclaimer. If you do your own analysis on the basis of history, there have been ups and downs, and this is the third crash as rightly described in the flyer. Right now, what is really looking very clearly, that era of oil and gas is going to be over soon. Probably 15 years, probably 10 years.
10 years.
People are moving towards the renewable, and that means the prices, oil prices are going to be depressed for a very long time.
Yeah,
they went down to below $10. Now they are at $40. But the estimate is, or the prediction is, that it's going to stay.
It will remain depressed
above and below $50. Eventually, it will start dropping. It will start dropping because of the other energy resources.
Yeah, the next question, I would say, Uzma. It says petroleum companies should have a minimum of 21 days stock. It is OGRA's responsibility to keep it like that. But I mean, the question is, presently they probably have less days stock. Is it enough? I mean, the question is that, is this sufficient stock?
The petroleum companies need to have 20 days of average sale of stocks. Now, this depends on the financial capability of that company. It is not 21, it is 20. It is not OGRA's responsibility because the demand and supply of petroleum products is not the mandate of OGRA. It is the mandate of OGRA to ensure that the petroleum company has storage infrastructure of 20 days according to their 20-day supply stock. So the infrastructure, that means the storage has to be built. And that storage has to be built until they do it, OGRA will not grant them a marketing license. And filling that storage, because that involves imports and allocations from local refineries, that OGRA does not do. Because imports involve foreign exchange, they involve the State Bank of Pakistan, they involve the Maritime Affairs Ministry, and because unless OGRA cannot tell the Maritime Affairs Ministry that we need to berth this ship in an emergency, the government of Pakistan has the sovereign power to do that. OGRA as a regulator can enforce that you build the storage for 20 days. To fill it and to keep that stock is because they have to import it or they have to take it from a local refinery. So unless that allocation is made by the Ministry of Petroleum, they will not be able to get it.
Okay, yeah. Now the next question is from Syed Imtiaz Abbas, and the question is, what is government's strategy to improve consumption of oil, although now enjoying temporarily favorable balance of payment due to low priced oil import and low quantity? I guess, I mean, you know, the question is, the current demand is low, although the prices are low. How is the government trying to encourage the usage of so who would like to respond? Imran?
I can do that.
Yeah, okay. Usman, yeah, please go ahead.
You see, what the thing is, there's a lot of storage in the country now. The infrastructure caters for 600,000 metric tons of petrol. So what we should do is, because we also need to build strategic reserves. So what we should get them filled because the prices are low and in the international market, and they should take advantage of this. At least they reach that peak. And of course, the usual sales is above that. So they should be allowing imports, and they should, because the local production is only 30%. 70% is imports. So they should be allowing full imports at this stage. The prices are low, take advantage of it, and they should fill up their storages to capacity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Aftab, I mean, this is an old question. I mean, do we have another one?
Hello, can you see the screen?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, this is, I can see the screen, but the question by Asad is I think this has already been answered. So is there another question, or should we move?
Zahid, I want to make one remark here.
Yeah, please.
You know, the question which was asked by Kashif about how we can take the benefit of the current reduction in the LNG prices by spot prices are so low. What the point which Imran made earlier, that the PEPRA, you know, at the moment the LNG will be bought either by PSO or PLL. There are two companies who are doing the LNG procurement at the moment. Is the Pakistan State Oil or Pakistan LNG Limited. They both are the government organization. When you go for PEPRA, you know, it is just transparent, but not the market competitive. So you will take 3 months. By that time, the amount is the price will be back to the the previous. So we have to find out how to tackle or how to. I remember 2 years or 3 years back, there were a lot of talk about how to improve these PEPRA rules, and they would ask the comments and input from all of us, and nothing did actually. So so this PEPRA rules need to really redefine. So make it more
I absolutely, I agree with you. I fully agree with you. There is another
We
question
also-
for you. There is another question for you. It is like, you see SSGC and SNGPL, they get a return on investment. Now the question from Yakub is, instead of giving gas companies a return on investment, why cannot they manage their own P&L? This will incentivize them to reduce the losses. So, I mean, I think this is a very, very good question. I mean, if you look at your books, I mean, there is always be profit, but when we look at your cash flow, it's a different story. So your response, please.
I think I will answer first, and then Uzma can add on this, being a regulator.
Yeah.
I think it's a history when there are always profits, because the circumstances are changing. And I said, as the platform for working has been changed because of the public sector. Yes, Yakub has a very valid point that because this return on investment, there's a legacy of these. There's a history. These actually arose in the past from the covenants of the Asian Development Bank and World Bank, when they wanted a guaranteed return for their debts, when they actually back, I think it's almost 20 years back, when they make lending to the both companies for their infrastructure development. So there is yes, this guaranteed return have a negative impact, that it really negatively impact the efficiency of these companies. It needs to be looked at, and in the previous regime, yes, the then petroleum minister was talking a lot about that. I have to remove this guaranteed return, and they should be market competitive. But it's not only one factor. We have to look the entire picture. If you just looking at the return, so it is not like that lucrative or attractive. There are a lot of other factors that I was saying just, and Usma is sitting here, that the like tariff. When I see my UFG, the 1/3 of my UFG is in Balochistan, which is a very high value, where I'm losing 60% of my gas. And when I go to the different forums to make Balochistan a different tariff regime, like go for the fixed tariff. In Bangladesh, there is no UFG, because in Bangladesh, there's a fixed tariff for everybody. So there are no line losses. So when we talk about the line losses, then at the same time, we have to look at the tariff regime in entirety, actually, as a whole. So there are a lot of things need to be fixed. We cannot, pick and choose and fix few items. We have to pick the whole tariff regime, and then it will work. Maybe Usman can add something.
Uzma, do you want to add something?
Can I?
Yeah, please.
These companies should operate commercially, right? But you have to guarantee them one thing. There should be no political interference by any government in power. And these companies should not be used for political purposes. You let them do commercial business. The socioeconomic agenda of any government who is in force should be fulfilled by the governments through direct subsidies. If they want some work done, fine. They should do it on a commercial basis, direct inco subsidy there. But don't allow any government to use them for political reasons. They cannot otherwise.
Question for you, Moin. Has circular debt basically reduced your capacity to spend? I mean, the question is, what was the limitation for OGDC and PPL to increase drilling density in the country prior to 2018? Circular debt has increased lately. I mean, the question is, the circular debt has increased over the past 2 years. In fact, I mean, I know it has not. I mean, the circular debt is like, a 10 years old thing. But I mean, they're talking about limitations. The question is that circular debt, has it really impacted your spending? Moin.
Sorry, I missed that, because I was circular debt has increased lately over the past 2 years. I mean, this is something that gave me nightmares. Started giving me nightmares. I was talking to Mr. Amin Rajput only 2 days ago that we it's I mean, it's probably a known fact, let me say, that only for PPL, this circular data sold to about 300 billion rupees. And you're talking about if you talk about the time value of money, because it's been building over for some time. So you're talking about time value of money. So this is something like $1.5 billion. You can buy a mid-sized oil company in the North America and start make your production double. But this is a fact of life. This is a national issue. I don't know who to blame, because this has been building and building and building over a period of time. So yeah, I mean, it has made us a little crippled in terms of losing our financial muscles, and do the exploration activities that at least in the frontier areas, which are very cost intensive. So, this is very unfortunate, because multinationals don't want to come in the, when he was saying that, OMB director was saying that no prospects, because yes, of course, but there are high risk in the frontier areas, but you have to take that risk. I took that risk. We took that risk. We made many dry wells. We drilled many dry wells, but eventually we made a discovery in an entirely new play. So you have to take a risk, and that will add value. So multinationals are not doing that.
The bottom line is, I mean, currently for OGDC and PPL, more than 600 billion. And PPL, I know that for the last 2 years, it has swelled. But with OGDC, even in 2013, it was about 200 billion.
Let me tell you one thing, a very important thing that, not very important, I mean, we are sister companies. OGDCL has a better oil and gas mix. So it's not really that bad for them in terms of operability. We are like 90%, 90-10 in terms of gas oil mix.
Yeah, this is correct.
And the most of the circular that is basically
now moving on. Let's move on. I mean, the question is about hedging strategy. I mean, I'll answer it. I mean, I know that I'm aware that a hedging proposal was developed by the government about 1 month back when the oil price was $20. I am privy to that. I saw the summary. But I mean, the problem is that, there are people in the government are not able to take this decision. Most of the people in the government at the bureaucracy level, they are afraid of it. I mean, they thought that what will happen. I mean, honestly, I mean, the cost of hedging was like $3 to $4 million.
I was coming to that.
To $3 to $4 million. And the question was, and the answer was that what will happen if it goes down and $10 million will go down the drain. So, I mean, nobody was ready to take this decision. So let's move on. Every time drop. Yeah, Imran.
We have this Pakistan Commodity Exchange. I think you should start using that to test out the hedging position and for people to learn and move on.
Yeah.
Not saying we should do it, right? But we should start building an institution.
So the question now, I think I'll take the last one question before we move on. The question is shale a good alternative of Pakistan E&P sector? Moin?
Yeah, actually the shale boom started from North America, and it seems like that it's still staying there in North America, like USA and Canada, and then partly in Argentina. US is producing about 50 billion cubic feet of gas per day from shale only right now. And Pakistan's total production is cut from conventional 4 BCF per day. So that is a comparison. So yes, our current break-even prices ranges from $10 or $11 to $15, depending on which economic model you use. So we cannot really, this will not fly. This will not fly. If it is stopped flying in USA, and shale gas buyers, shale gas producers have suffered greatly because of these huge drop in the oil prices. So yeah, I mean, let alone, I mean, Pakistan, we may talk about $11. Why would government give $11? But at the same time, I would say that you have to start somewhere. If we are talking about only 50 million cubic feet of gas per day, then government can really easily afford it, because 50 million cubic feet per day of shale gas vis-a-vis the 4,000 million cubic feet of gas per day from the country, it is really a fraction of the cost. It's a fraction of the cost. So it is very easy for the government to give a subsidy.
We need a shale gas policy for that. I mean, we need some
Absolutely.
incentive. So Khalid Saab, it's pretty much time. Do you want me to conclude and then give it to you, or you would like to say something?
You are the boss. You decide.
Okay, I'll just take 2 minutes to conclude. Thank you very much for your participation. Very good discussion. I mean, I am extremely sorry that the time is too much and I had to cut you people out. Actually, there are more time was required. More time was required.
I'll send you a WhatsApp message.
Yeah. But I mean, unfortunately, we don't have much time. And the questions were too many, in depth was required. So, I mean, just conclude. Basically, Moin told us that the success rate is marvelous. 1 is to 2.8, which is the best in the world. However, it's a misnomer. I mean, if you drill and find something which is 30 BCF, 40 BCF, it does not mean anything. I mean, drill more, find one exploration success, and if it is 5 TCF, I mean, that would really matter. So yes, I mean, there are a lot of discoveries, but that is the problem. So he told us not too many discoveries in the last 10 years. Reserve replacement is too low. However, I mean, we need to focus on policies, and we need to focus on the regulatory regime. We concluded that we need a different regulator. We need to strengthen the regulator. Moin doesn't want to add a new regulator, but the regulator needs to be strengthened. This was supported by USMA, who thought that we need to differentiate between the policy and the regulator. I mean, the policy should not be there with the regulator. Currently, the policy and the regulator are with the same DG. Shale is a good opportunity, but we need a shale gas policy. We need incentive. It is expensive. That is the answer. We need to go into the frontier areas. The frontier areas where the risks are more and the costs are very high. And that is the only way where you can go and have new plays and new exploration successes. But again,
5 seconds, just 5 seconds.
Yes,
just 5
okay,
seconds.
okay.
So you said that we have made fewer discoveries in last 10 years. No, we have made
more discoveries, fewer discoveries.
I heard that. Okay, yeah.
No, I said fewer
that's
big
good.
discoveries. So 30, we have hundreds of small discoveries, but no big discovery. That is
hundreds of exactly.
So on the gas pricing thing, we have seen support on the weighted average cost. We need to make these utility companies commercial, free of political interference, and this is how the companies will become sustainable. On the UFGs, on the leakages and measurement errors, I mean, again, if you give autonomy to the utility companies without any interference, political interference, we should be able to do well. As far as the LNG is concerned, we think that current 9% will increase. According to Imran, probably the indigenous gas will be 25% and 75% will be LNG. So in the pricing, it is extremely important to make changes in the pricing arrangement. The long-term supply contract for LNG is a must. I mean, everybody thinks that, you know, we should not be carried away with the low pricing regime now. If we don't have the long-term contract, you will be in trouble. Also, I think the Imran concluded that it is extremely important to ensure the usage of gas. There has to be guarantees, and no project will fly without giving a guarantee from the buyer. So these were the general main things which we have concluded. So I think I will pass on to Khalid Rahman Saab for his concluding remarks before we conclude the webinar.
Thank you very much, Zahid. You have already concluded. My sermon would be simply vote of thanks. So, assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. It's approaching night now, so very good evening, night. Thank you for being with us today. This is the fourth webinar being hosted by the Professional Accountants Business Committee of ICAP in collaboration with Northern and Southern Regional Committee. As we have a very large portion of professional accountants of business in our fraternity, around 80%. And the PIB committee is serving this segment to ensure that we are able to extend the training and development requirement to our membership and give them the knowledge that is required to understand the different businesses. The PIB committee has taken a lot of initiatives, and that includes a CFO conference, National Finance Olympiad, and we keep on troubling all of you for sponsorships on CFO conferences, but those are all large events, well attended and well represented by all segment of the business, finance, the government, etc. So what we are organizing here is, so we as PIB committee have initiated a series of webinars. This is the fourth, as I mentioned earlier. And the first three were on Pakistan economy, business transformation, leadership perspective on organizational resilience, and today's webinar we've seen was in oil and gas sector. Going forward, we have webinars coming every fortnightly. Rather, there's an exception. Next week we are having one on stress management, and then the following webinars on a fortnightly basis would be sectorial. So we have a webinar on pharmaceutical and healthcare, and then we have on the financial sector. We also propose to have two more webinars on the energy sector, the power sector, and the oil side in terms of marketing and refining. So with that, I would like to say thank you to everybody who are with us. We were very fortunate to have a very distinguished panel of experts, and I'm thankful to each one of them to have accepted our invitation and to have shared the knowledge and wisdom in this webinar. So we got a lot, and thank you everybody. And I saw a lot of passion. Moeen, you are as passionate as ever. So thank you very much for that passion. I would like to first of all acknowledge my deepest thanks to Madam Uzma for accepting our invitation. We all know she has a very, very tight schedule. She is a role model really for the ICAP profession, who has not only excelled in the industry, but has been a very successful leader as a regulator. She's really an iron lady, and she's a very frank, firm, and bold person, and she does not mince words, even at the highest forum. So, Madam, thank you very much for being with us today. It's an honor and a privilege, and we wish you all the best. Your term will be running out soon, but I'm sure that whatever you do, you'll do very well. So thank you very much, Madam. Again, we are very privileged to have Zahid Mir with us, who has graciously accepted the challenge role of being a moderator with Muin and Amin and Imran, and obviously Madam Usma. He's a man of many good qualities as a human being, and also as a very, very good professional. He is an expert on the ENP side with very vast experience, and now on refining. So thank you, Zahid, and we look forward to your support in our future events as well. Imranul Haq is really an expert in LNG. He was the MD Engro Energy Pakistan Terminal, and was the person behind bringing LNG into Pakistan. He made sure that the energy terminal was constructed in record time of 11 months. I was with SSGCL when they accomplished the task and the commissioning took place, and I still recall how passionate Imran was to get the terminal going, and the challenges then I had to face with him in terms of making sure that we work together in terms of bringing out the LNG into the country as early as possible. So thank you, Imran. And then he obviously took the role of MDPSO, very challenging role, and he did a lot of good there. So he's a man of extremely good qualities. I've known him. He was with Engro in early days of Engro, and I'm grateful for you being with us and for sharing your knowledge with the members of ICAP. Muin Raza Khan, as Zahid, you also acknowledged, is an accomplished geologist, and he was a PPL scholar. It was not easy to get scholarship in PPL. He was blessed with the scholarship, and he studied abroad. He has extensive international and national exposure. He has worked in multiple ENP companies, and finally he settled being with PPL. He was instrumental, or he is instrumental, in the growth of PPL exploration portfolio, so which has been the lifeline for the company. So thank you, Muin, for taking
Grateful, sir. Grateful, sir.
For us today. Last but not least, Amin is a very seasoned ICAM member. He has previously served in senior management positions as CFO and Chief Internal Auditor in different companies. And now, mashallah, he's the MD at GCL. Amin, thank you very much you for sparing us time. I have the honor of working with each one of you. So I know what sort of knowledge and expertise you all have. It's on behalf of PI, Professional Accountants of Business Committee of ICAP, I wish to record our deepest thanks to all the panelists and the moderator for sparing the valuable time. The PIB committee has also been publishing post-webinars paper covering deliberations in each webinar. So whatever we have discussed today will be converted into a document That document would cover the entire proceedings of our discussion. And Muin, we will also put in your slides in that publication because some of our participants have requested that these slides should be made available to them. So I'll be grateful if those slides can be shared. Also, there were many questions which were asked.
Except that I would request us to share the PDF because somebody.
We will work on the modality. We will work on the modalities.
Because PDF are really changeable.
Sure. We'll work on the modalities, Moin. So there were many questions which were asked by the participants today, and we could not put all the questions on to you. So if you allow, we will be sharing some of the questions which remain unanswered for the panelists and the moderator to respond so that we can put them as part of our publication. We have to bring all these webinars together. There is a very, very highly dedicated team of volunteers from the PIB committee and the regional committees duly supported by ICAP staff who is organizing these events. And I think I would be out of place if I don't name people who have been very proactive in this. You've seen Fuad Aftab, who was a host today. Thank you, Fuad, for being a great host and for coordinating and doing everything remarkably. Thank you, Aftab. He was supported by, again, Naeem Hori, Rauf Ali Jan, Sayyid Muinuddin, Murtaza Feroz, Amir Shaukat Hussain, Asad Feroz, Amber Anwar, Imran Hafiz, Adnan Usmani, Arsalan Rabbani, and Shanawaz Abro. I'm thankful to each one of them for the time and effort and for making this webinar serial a success so far. Also, I wish to place on record my gratitude to our very dear past president, Mr. Yaqub Sattar, who has been assisting us on these webinars. Thank you, Yaqub, for all your advice and for all the work that you do for us. I'm grateful. The PIB committee will be holding webinars regularly, as I said, and we have coming in 3 webinars we'll have in the month of July. They'll be all announced. So we have one on the 3rd, the second one on the 10th of July, and the third one on the 24th. In the end, I would like to thank President ICAP, Khalilullah Sheikh, and all the council members for the guidance, support, and encouragement. May Allah bless you all and keep you all safe and healthy. Good night and Allah Hafiz. Pakistan Zindabad, Pakistan Pindabad. Thank you very
much. Thank you very much, Khalid sir.
Thanks a lot.
And Zahid Sahab, let me say a few words about you have done an excellent job. You had a very difficult job because you had to close that Kuze mein Zariya Band Karna. You had to close everything in 1 hour, and you did just marvelously on time.
I'm sorry to cut you again and again. So, but I mean,
but there were so many questions that you sent. You sent me 7 questions, but you asked me, you managed, we merged them and all. So you missed some, you deleted some question and all that. But that was good because they came up during the discussions and the question answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just to add the statistics, we had nearly 8,000 views plus on Facebook, about 250 plus views, attendance on the Zoom. Thank you very much, everyone. With that, everything will be covered on the following webinar page. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you very much.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you.
Allah.
Thank you.